Hello everybody and welcome to the mid-year tier list. Now, if you know this channel, you know I play a stupid amount of games. So I have over 50 games here that I've played. The majority of them I have beaten. I will tell you which games I have and haven't beaten. And we're just going to put them all together in a tier list like I did at the end of last year. There'll be absolutely no messing around, so let's just get into the tier list. So, number 1 on the list, we have Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. Now, I never played the originals, or I did, I think, emulate them or something at some point. But I was honestly surprised by these. They were quite fun. Maybe slightly unbalanced. They were very difficult. I couldn't beat them on the normal difficulty. I had to play it on easy because it was really, really difficult. Especially the final level of the first game. It was just stupidly difficult. And I would argue that it was kind of unfair because the game didn't really prepare you for it. But they are very good remakes. They look good. They have a pretty decent level maker that you can share with your friends, but I think the biggest issue with that is that there's no matchmaking. You can only share it with your friends. So because of that, I enjoyed the campaign. I had fun with it, but I don't think it was like an absolutely amazing package. So I think that'll go in a C tier. Nah, we'll put it in B. I think even if I had a multiplayer, it would still be B, but it would be high B, okay? Now, a lot of this is actually, there's going to be quite a few VR games here. So the first VR game is After the Fall, which is basically Left 4 Dead, but in VR. Does exactly what it says on the tin. It's fun to dip in and out of, play around. I've played with David. I've played a couple of rounds with David. And yeah, fun game. Don't really have many complaints about it. It's just kind of does what it says on the tin, and that's it. So I think it's a C tier. Fun VR game, but I wouldn't write home about it. Those two games, I'd never beat After the Fall, but I've played like a good few rounds of it, but okay. So Atomic Heart, which is going to be the first game that I haven't even gotten close to beating. But firstly, the opening to this game, the setting is cool. It's actually really cool. It's like this sort of Russian, it's communist and there's robots running around and it's kind of dystopian. It's a bit almost like the opening is very Bioshock Infinite. And it had some cool ideas, but from what I played, the opening took too long. There was a lot of like chatter that was funny, but I could see that it would get annoying after a while. And then when the game kind of opens up into the open world section, it gets very messy. Like the map, it's just not a good game. It's not a good design game. It could have been good. It has a really cool setting, but outside of the setting, it just feels a bit messy. I honestly think I haven't beaten Atomic Heart. I've never even got close to beating it. But I think it's a D tier game. I don't think it will. Maybe if I beat it, it could go to a C, but I don't think it was anything more than that. And next we have Horizon Call of the Mountain, which is my favorite Horizon game. And it's not my favorite Horizon game because it's really good. It's just I'm not really a big fan of the other Horizon games. They're like solid games, but that's it. But Call of the Mountain, what it did, its gameplay is pretty basic. You're just climbing and shooting things. So, but I think what it did is that it made me really appreciate the world of Horizon. Seeing all the enemies at scale, like, being on top of a tall neck and standing underneath a tall neck and seeing a Thunderjaw in, like, standing above you was special. And it was a really cool experience. Very high quality, looks really good. No bugs. But I think the gameplay is probably where it falters a bit, where the climbing is fun, like it's grand. The shooting is fine, but it's not, it doesn't elevate, it never goes above good or like almost very good. So I think as a proof of concept, sort of like a showcase of the tech, Horizon Call of the Mountain is amazing. But as a game, it's good, where I think it's a C tier. I think it could have been an A tier if it pushed the boundaries with its gameplay. But yeah, it's a C tier because it's a good showcase of what the PSVR 2 can do. Next, we have one of my favorite games this year, which is SpongeBob SquarePants and Cosmic Shake. I love 3D platformers. I love SpongeBob, and this is just a perfect melding of the two. It had loads of my issue was I was afraid that Cosmic Shake would cater towards newer SpongeBob fans. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just I'm an old SpongeBob fan, so a lot of the jokes would have been lost on me. But they used loads of the old jokes, like the chocolate joke. I'm trying to go through my head, just thinking about it. It's been months since I played this game, but there was loads of the Krusty Krab pizza. There was just loads of references for people who grew up watching SpongeBob in the early days. And then the platform was just solid. It's a solid game, very diverse levels, fun to play. It looks really good, just really vibrant and colourful. It's exactly what a mascot platformer should be. And because of that, it goes into an A tier. On the Switch, don't buy it on the Switch. It doesn't run very well, but I played it on Xbox Series S. Perfect. And I also have a collector's edition that they sent out to me, which is really cool. So yeah, it's just a very good game, very solid, exactly what I want. Yeah, brilliant. And now we get into one of the best games I've played all year, and that is Dead Space Remake. And I think the conversation about Dead Space Remake, obviously, later on the year, Resident Evil 4 Remake came out, so I was like, which is the better remake? And for me, Dead Space Remake is a better remake than Resident Evil 4 Remake, but that's only because Dead Space, the original, wasn't as good as the original Resident Evil 4 for me. I feel like Dead Space Remake took the original Dead Space and put it on the same pedestal as Resident Evil 4. And because of that, it's an S tier. It's super gory. They actually made the Ishimura like a place that you can backtrack in. It wasn't just chapters. The lighting is some of the best lighting. There was one part where you're walking down this. There's like a corridor and there's something spinning around that's blocking out the light, and you can see the dust and the light shafts, and the lighting in this game is insane. It looks brilliant. It plays super well. It's just like an absolutely amazing must-play survival horror game. Or, well, it's more action horror, but it's absolutely amazing. And I think now Dead Space is now on the same level as Resident Evil 4. Even Resident Evil 4 Remake, which I do prefer over the original. But it doesn't replace the original. I still think you can enjoy Dead Space Remake or the original Dead Space now. But I think Dead Space Remake replaces Dead Space, where I don't think Resident Evil 4 Remake replaces Resident Evil 4, because they're still both great games. And while we're on the topic of Resident Evil 4, I may as well, it's somewhere in here, if I can find it. Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 4. Don't tell me I didn't put Resident Evil 4 on this list. It doesn't seem like I did, but I did put Resident Evil 1 HD somehow. So Resident Evil 1 HD, which I did play for the first time this year. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Absolutely amazing. That's an S tier game. It's an A tier game, just because certain parts of it are a bit tedious. But yes, Resident Evil. Oh no, there's Resident Evil 4 Remake. Okay, Resident Evil 1 HD, great game, brilliant. So glad I played it. Resident Evil 4 Remake, it's S tier. Resident Evil 4 was already an S tier game. Resident Evil 4 Remake, I believe, is better than the original. It's different, but it's better. Firstly, it looks great. The gore is brilliant. But what it did was, the whole thing about Resident Evil 4 was how expressive the combat was, where you had just so many different ways to do things. You can knock people off bridges. You had all the context-sensitive, like, suplexes and all that. But what Resident Evil 4 Remake did was basically just tell you, okay, we're just going to modernize that feel and give you the same feel, but make it feel even more fluid. And it has probably the best combat in any horror game I've ever played, any action horror game. Oh no, it definitely does. Loads of weapons. I actually liked the story. There were certain parts that were a bit iffy, like Salazar kind of just appeared near the end. They also, I can't think of the guy's name. I don't know why. I know what was he? The Napoleon guy. He wasn't involved in the story as much as I liked. But otherwise, absolutely fantastic game. I loved it. And it's one of my favourite games of the year. That Dead Space Remake, and then there are another couple of games that I won't spoil for the rest of it. But yeah, Resident Evil 4 Remake is once again an absolute must-play horror game. It doesn't replace Resident Evil 4, the original, because that's still an amazing game, and I do think that people will still enjoy that. But Resident Evil 4 Remake, brilliant. Excuse me, I had to burp there. Okay, next we have Destiny 2 Lightfall. And I'm going to take a sip of water. I'm going to be drinking because there's just a lot of talking. Okay, so Destiny 2 Lightfall. I played a lot of Destiny nearing the end of last year, start of this year. And I loved it. And it got me into Destiny. And I did it because I wanted to get into Lightfall. Because Lightfall was actually really, really cool. Well, from an aesthetic standpoint, from what I saw the trailers. And you had a grappling hook. And the Lightfall campaign was good. Narratively, I'm not really one to talk about the narrative of Destiny because I don't really understand it. So I usually just take it or leave it. But according to other people, the narrative is pretty crap. And then they did a lot of Marvel writing in it. They had this like character that was like just not serious, but it was delivered in a Marvel way where, you know, it's practically the end of the world is happening and this guy's always joking. I think his name was Nimbus. He wasn't good. But the new powers are pretty fun. I can't really speak about the end game or anything like that because I'm not into Destiny for that. I just wanted to go in and just play through the story, do a few missions, and get some new weapons and stuff. And yeah, Lightfall was good. I haven't played much of it since. For like a couple of weeks afterwards, I was dipping in for a couple of hours a week, but I literally haven't I don't even think I have it downloaded anymore. So Lightfall, I will put it in I'll put it in a C tier because it's just like, it's good. I like the abilities, but it didn't capture me. It didn't capture me after the fact, you know? So that's why I'm giving it a C tier. And next we have Diablo 4, a game that I still haven't beaten, but I've played for like 30 hours because I just got very busy with loads of reviews for Game Explain and stuff. But Diablo 4 is an extremely solid game. Firstly, I think my favorite part about Diablo 4 was that all of the abilities the characters have so many ways to build them. So like, I was playing a rogue, but there was 3 or 4 different ways that I could have built the rogue. And also it was very easy to understand how I was building my character. Like, it was just laid out really easily. I didn't need to watch a guide or read anything to figure out how to build a crit build or how to do this build, where I feel in games like Borderlands, to really get the most out of builds, you really have to sort of learn shit by watching videos. But I didn't feel like that in Diablo, and I could see my build coming together from minute one. Also, they let you respec at any moment for pretty cheap, which is great, so you can constantly experiment, because I absolutely despise when action RPGs, or just RPGs in general, punish you for wanting to experiment and change your skills out. So yeah, it's a brilliant game. Firstly, the quality, like the graphics on it are absolutely insane. It shouldn't look this good, but it does. Like the lighting, the textures, it's just super high quality. Even the story, they did bits where the camera would move and like the camera would pan into characters while they're speaking, and it would be a bit more cinematic, which is really good. Now, I never really want to care about the story in action RPGs like most people, but I can see here that this is a way higher budget story than what was in the previous Diablo games or Torchlight or any of them other action RPGs. So I can appreciate that, but I don't really care about it. I still haven't beaten it, and the game is absolutely like massive. I'm on Act 3, I'm like 30 or 35 hours in, and I don't even think I'm close to beating it, to be honest. I think there's like 6 or 8 acts, so I'll be there for another while. But yeah, it's a very, very good action RPG. I can't really speak of the end game yet. That will kind of determine whether or not it's an S tier. But right now it's an A tier. It's also difficult enough. I found in Diablo 3 it was overly easy and it was completely brain dead, but I was playing on World Tier 2, and you really have to think about what you're doing. Like, I died quite a bit, and if you switch your brain off, you can die very quick, which I really appreciate that. So it's an A tier, and if I beat it again, this will be funny at the end of the year when I do like the big tier list. I can only imagine how many feckin' games are going to be on that. But it'll be good to see with Diablo 4 where it goes after I beat it and I do a bit of endgame stuff, because that can make or break. To be honest, having a bad endgame could actually put it down to a B tier, or it could elevate it to an S tier, so we'll have to wait and see. And then next is one of my favorite games of the year. Certainly not, I'm not going to sit here and say it's like the best game, but it was dumb fun, well done, linear, didn't take up too much of my time, and that is Dead Island 2. Dead Island 2 is, I heard this on Sacred Symbols, they said, Dead Island 2 is the minimum of what you'd expect a AAA game to be, and I totally agree with that, because the graphics look nice, it sounds nice, plenty of gore and viscera, and the story is like grand, it does the job, no bugs, and it's nice and, well, it's not completely linear. You have like open-ish areas to explore with side quests, but it's not overly massive. Like, the world isn't ginormous and you have to hop in a car to drive from one end of the map to the next and you have to do blah blah blah. It's just, you go in. This game was set up to deliver a story to you, deliver quests, give you cool weapons to just absolutely decimate a load of zombies, and that's it. That's all you get, and I'm completely fine with that. It doesn't need to be any more. It's a perfect podcast. Switch off your brain, play the game, have loads of fun, and that's it. And not every game has to be a narrative masterpiece. Not every game has to have the deepest combat in the world. The combat in this feels good, it looks good, and then you have a good crafting system underneath it, so it kind of elevates it and makes it fun that you have loads of different weapons to experiment with. Yeah, just a solid, fun game. And I think because of that, I'm hovering between a low A. I don't know what noise that was, but I'm hovering between a low A or a high B. And I actually think this is quite difficult. Low A, high B. I think we give it a high B. Because I don't think I'll put it on the same bracket as Diablo 4. Yeah, we'll put it in a high B because it is very good, very fun. And next, the video that I've never had, my most controversial video I've ever uploaded, Final Fantasy 16. So, I have a full video if you want to watch it, but I'll sum it up. Final Fantasy 16 is super high budget, has really good cutscenes, has a good story with bad pacing, has flashy combat that after 10 hours doesn't change much, and has, I think it's one of the best games in this series for a long time, since probably Final Fantasy 12 in the mainline games. 7 Remake is a mainline game, but it's a remake, so that's 7 Remake is absolutely fantastic. 16 is good, but as you go on, as I said, it's like death by 1,000 cuts or whatever that phrase is. As you go on, the combat doesn't change. The story pacing is all off. Like there's points where you get these big, massive story moments, and then all of a sudden, and they're great, super high budget, kind of hit you in the feels. And then next of all, you have to do these fucking stupid quests where you're walking, and this is the main story, that you have to travel to here to talk to this guy, travel to here to talk to this guy, and it just ruins the pacing. Awfully paced game, but it's good. And that's another thing that I don't think people understood. I kept saying that the game is good, but it's not great. And I know this is going to be controversial, but finally, I never beat this. I got 30 hours in and I just put it down. I was too busy, and I just don't want to spend another 10 hours doing the same boring, spammy combat. But not everyone agrees with that. Or not a lot of people don't agree with that. But Final Fantasy 16 is a C tier game. Yeah. And next we have Forspoken. Forspoken is a D tier. It's a high D tier. High D, low C, but I'll give it a high D. And it's because it's an open world game that is the most open world game of all time. Where exploring the world is fun, the combat is fun, but basic. You know, it looks cool, you have some cool powers, but you know, it's not deep, and it doesn't really force you to do anything different. The story is like okay, and yeah, it's just like the most average game. If Final Fantasy 16 is like a 6, is like a 7 out of 10, Forspoken's like a 5.5 out of 10. You know, where it works and it's fine. And maybe for 20 or 30 euro, you know, you'll have some fun, listen to some podcasts and just run around the world. But it's nothing more than that, and it never is anything more than that. Yeah, it's grand. Next, we have Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. This game took me by surprise, and it's an S tier. Just to put this into perspective, Ghost Trick Phantom Detective was a DS game that was stranded. I think it got an iOS port or something, but it was on consoles, it was stranded on the DS. A cartridge costs like €100 over here now, and it's made by the guy that did Ace Attorney. I've never played any of the Ace Attorney games, but they are a series that I want to get around. It is a series that I want to get around to. But Ghost Trick Phantom Detective is one of them games that if you look up what are the best DS games, you usually get like The World Ends With You. Obviously you have the Mario games and a couple of RPGs, etc. But Ghost Trick Phantom Detective is always up there for one of the best and most underrated and hidden gem of the DS games. And it's finally on modern consoles. I just reviewed it for Game Explain there, and it's just fantastic. It's brilliant. Absolutely, it's a murder mystery game where you have to like you are dead, you're trying to figure out who you are, how you died, but you have these ghost abilities that let you possess items, that let you move to different parts, move around these scenes. But then also you can rewind time 4 minutes to save people's lives. And it's just every single story beat just opens a new door that you can explore. And I was just intrigued from minute one, and I couldn't put it down. I was so busy with making videos for my own channel and Game Explain that I beat this game in practically 2 sittings. The game's about 10 hours, so like 4 5-hour sittings. And it's very heavy on the dialogue, but I just didn't care. I just loved it. The character designs are absolutely phenomenal. Every single one of them I remember, and I'll remember them for a long time. It's like the main guy is this guy in a red suit with yellow hair. He looks like Ronald McDonald or like a palette swap. The like main female character is this detective that's like red hair, yellow jacket. And then you have this Pomeranian called Missile. You have a detective that's dressed like Elvis but dances like Michael Jackson. There's just so much character in this game. It's absolutely phenomenal, and I highly recommend that everybody plays it if you're into them sort of games. As you can see here, we have Gollum here. He has his own tier, and Gollum is in the Gollum tier, just like Gotham Knights was in the Gotham Knights tier last year. This game is absolutely dreadful. Doesn't look good, doesn't run good, isn't designed well. Just an absolute disaster. It uses feckin', standard Photoshop fonts for the UI. Has you doing menial tasks as Gollum, like wrangling feckin' beasts into things. You're in a prison for the majority of the game. I didn't even finish it. I got like 7 hours in, and I was like, I just can't. It's an absolutely disgraceful game. An absolute disgrace to the Lord of the Rings franchise. I've been waiting for a Lord of the Rings game for years, a good one. I mean, we had Shadow of Mordor, which is great, and then Shadow of War I didn't play at launch because apparently there was a lot of issues with microtransactions. So I haven't played Shadow of War, so I still have that to go back to. But at the end of the day, I'm still waiting on a new good Lord of the Rings game, and unfortunately, we're going to have to wait a long time. Maybe that Mines of Moria game be good, but Gollum certainly is an awful game. Never buy it, it's shit. And I was going to buy that game at some point. I didn't think I was getting a code for it. I was going to buy it. I'm so glad I did. Or I didn't. So next we have Zombieland Headshot Fever, which is one of my favourite VR games of this year. It's basically a light gun shooter in VR, set in the Zombieland universe. Woody Harrelson and... no, it's not Michael Cera. It's the other guy that looks like Michael Cera. What's his name? Jesse Eisenberg, I think that's his name. I don't know if they lend their voices to it or whatever. I couldn't tell you. But what it is just a light gun shooter in VR, and how it works is you get a gun and you shoot zombies, and if you shoot them in the head, then it slows down time, and then you can build up combos. Just really fun. Not really much to say about it other than great game. Hi-Fi Rush. That's an A-tier game as well. Just really fun. A rhythm, character action game. Really cool art style. It was a shadow drop, which is amazing. I was playing it on my Steam Deck, and it's just perfect on the deck. Just has loads of personality and loads of character. I haven't beaten this game yet though. It came and I was like chipping away at it on my deck, and then God knows what happened. Something else came out or I got busy. Never got to finish it, but it's just a fantastic game. Like one of the biggest surprises of the year. Great. Next we have Hogwarts Legacy. And this is... I think this is a B tier game. It's like a very solid open world. If you told someone make a Ubisoft style open world game in Hogwarts, that's what this is. It's a high quality one, but at the end of the day, it doesn't go above and beyond. The narrative is fine. The graphics are pretty good, actually. The combat gets repetitive, but it's fine. Some of the side quests are like quite interesting. There was 1 or 2 that I would say are like really good, but the rest of them were just like okay. I mean, Hogwarts as a setting is fantastic. They did an amazing job at recreating the castle and making you feel like you are a wizard. But yeah, it's a good game. Like, it's a very good open world, bog standard open world game, and that's it. But still good. You get loads of bang for your buck, and I think that's exactly what you're going for with one of these big mass appeal open world games. Like, you want your average person to play this game and enjoy it. That's exactly what it's going to be. Good. Humanity is a an A tier, I think. Just a really fun puzzle game, basically Lemmings. And it kind of gave me, the vibe of, PS3, PSN games like what are The Last Guy and what's that other one? Tokyo Jungle and those old PS3 PSN games. That's just what it feels like. It's kind of like Lemmings. You play as this cool, light, really bright Shiba Inu, and you have to guide humans to the end. And it just ramps up in difficulty. And I could actually play it, which is good, because usually puzzle games I give up. But no, this was actually quite intuitive. And it was hard. And also there's a good hint system built into it, which is great. And the game tracks it, so you know how shit you are. But just a very good puzzle game. I don't think I could ever really give a puzzle game an S tier, just because I don't really like puzzle games. But that's a very good puzzle game that I recommend. It's also on PS Plus, on the second tier, I think. So, it's free if you want. Job Simulator it's a good VR game. I put that in a C tier. I'm not really one for these kind of I don't know, what would you call them, like life sim VR games, like Bartender VR and stuff. I'm not really into them. They're fun for like an hour, but I never really go further than that. It's a fine game. I like it. It's fun, but it's a game I don't think I'll ever beat, because I just get bored after like an hour or two, because I've seen enough. It's only so entertaining doing menial office tasks and stuff. So yeah, grand game. That's it. The Last Case of Benedict Fox. This is a high D tier, and I just think the game didn't really feel great to play. It has a great aesthetic and the story is interesting. But just going through, and the platforming never felt amazing. The combat was never as responsive as it should have been. Some of the puzzles are cool and they made me feel very smart. I actually have a moment like that on my stream where I was like really happy with a puzzle. But this was a game that showed really well but didn't play very well. It's on Game Pass, so you're not really losing much trying it out, but I wouldn't rush out. Boy, I wouldn't even rush out to play it. It's fine. Yeah, that's about it. Lone Rune is a solid roguelike game. Kind of like, a bit like Hades without the narrative, but it's very basic. Very bare bones. Once you beat like one run, that's basically the whole game done. It's a C tier, it's cheap, it's fine. That's it. Minecraft Legends. Now, I didn't beat this game, okay? But from what I played of it, really fun. It's basically kind of Pikmin-y, but I just love the aesthetic. I love games made in Minecraft. Like, Minecraft Dungeons, it's a fine action RPG, but the fact that it was in Minecraft, really fun. Minecraft Legends is the same, where it's not baby's first kind of, I don't know, what is this, like an RTS? It's kind of like Pikmin. It's not baby's first one. It has a bit of depth to it, and there's loads of different difficulties, so apparently, I was finding the game kind of brainless, but apparently if you play it on like a harder difficulty, they have it set up so that people of all ages can play it, which is fair enough. That's exactly what you want with a Minecraft game. So on the easy difficulties, the game is like, if this is your first RTS, if you're a 7-year-old kid or you're a dad and you want to play with your kid, then that's the difficulty to teach them the ropes. And then if you get into the harder difficulties, that's when it starts to get a bit harder and more for people like us who play games. So overall, I just love them making games in Minecraft, and this is a fun RTS game. Wasn't too deep, had some depth from what I played, and I enjoyed it. I think it's a high C tier. I think if I beat it and put more time into it, could be a B or a high C tier. Or it's a high C tier now, but I think if I beat it and it kind of gave me a bit more depth, more enemy variety, then it could be a B tier by the end of the year, if I beat it. And next we have Walkabout Mini Golf VR. This game is brilliant. It's an A tier. It's just mini golf basically, but it's in VR. Really relaxing. Loads of different courses to play on. And it's a great multiplayer game because I've played with my friend a couple of times and we just pop on our PSVR 2 headsets. We're just walking around a Japanese Zen garden playing fucking mini golf. And it's just fun. Like, I love mini golf, but the problem is there's no good mini golf courses around me because in Ireland they're just not the same. I've been to a couple in America and they're like what I want mini golf to be. Like, there's one I remember in Orlando, it was called like Pirates Cove or something, and it was like themed, like obviously there was like pirate ships and volcanoes, just really fun. And that's what this game brought. That's what this game gave me. I just dip in and out, maybe once, twice a week, just play a round of just one round, loads of different courses, which is great. And yeah, I can see myself. I've heard people say they've put hundreds of hours into this game just over the years on MetaQuest or whatever, and I can see myself doing that with Walkabout Mini Golf VR. Highly recommend it if you want a chill VR game to just dip in and out of. It's brilliant, especially as a multiplayer experience. And then next we have Moss. I haven't beaten this game, but Moss is like, again, I think it's a low A tier. It's a solid, just great, really cute, very endearing. Quill is just so cute and you can pet her. It's just a really cute game. You're like on the forest floor, guiding Quill around, doing these like, they're not really super hard puzzles, but there's puzzles, there's a small bit of combat. It's just a very solid game. I haven't played Moss Book 2 yet, but I really want to. I will at some point. There's just been so many games, as you can see. But yeah, just a very, very good game. And then Octopath Traveler 2. I was really hoping that this would take the Octopath formula and evolve it into what I was really hoping. But it just kind of kept it the same. So I'll start off with the good parts. Octopath Traveler has a great battle system. Just like the finding weaknesses and breaking and staggering enemies is just really fun. And this has a way cooler combat system just because the variety in characters and their movesets is just brilliant. And obviously the game looks absolutely fantastic. But I think where this game really, really bogs down, and I put like 10 or 15 hours in and I just gave up, it was the story. Same with Octopath 1. I didn't like Octopath 2 has better writing, it has better stories, but the party interaction just isn't there. I would have loved if this was a big grand adventure and depending on your party you had different dialogue, but instead all you're doing in the opening hours is like doing chapter 1 of one person's thing, and then you unlock them for your party. Like say you choose them as your starter, so then you do their opening chapter, and then you're free to explore the world, well, within the level range because you'll just get destroyed, but you're free to explore the world to do like everyone else's chapter 1. But I was kind of hoping that how it would work is you start chapter 1 of another character, and depending on what character you have, they interact with them in a certain way, but instead you're just getting like a vignette of their chapter 1 without the current thing, without your current party, and then when you finish that, then basically they just join your party. And then as you go along in the further chapters, I was hoping that there is party chatter, but I just wanted more interaction between the characters. Some people love this game, other people have similar opinions to me, so it seems to be quite divisive, but it's a solid classic RPG, but I just wanted a bit more. And then we have Sonic Origins Plus. It's only €10, but this goes, Gollum, okay, I did it as a joke, but Gollum is also F tier, okay? Sonic Origins Plus doesn't deserve to be anything more than F because the Game Gear games aren't fun. There's like 2 of them that are good, and then the rest of them all suffer from slowdown, they suffer from screen crunch, they're just not fun. Playing as Amy in Sonic 1, 2 and 3 and CD is cool, but yeah, I mean, she doesn't change much, and then playing as Knuckles in Sonic CD is fine. But I don't like Sonic CD. So Sonic Origins Plus, it's only €10. It's included. Well, actually, no, I'll put it in the D tier because it's included if you buy the game now. So it doesn't detract from the experience if you just buy the full game because it's the same price. But it also doesn't add much to the experience that it warrants a 10. Unless you really want to play as like Amy or something. But yeah, that's that. Next we have Outer Worlds Spacer's Choice. This goes in F tier because Outer Worlds is a great game, a really fun RPG, but this made the experience worse. It runs worse on PS5 than the PS4 version does. It just can't hit a 60 FPS. It's stupid. Apparently it added a load of more bugs that I didn't even experience because I just dipped in for like one of my I tried videos, so I didn't play much of it, but yeah, not a good port. I don't know if it's fixed, but it's not worth buying. Just play the PS4 version or play it on your Xbox at 60 FPS or play it on the PC, the original version. Because The Outer World's an absolutely fantastic game. It deserves to be played if you're into RPGs, but this just ruined it. So, yeah. Gollum tier or F. Redfall, F tier. The game didn't run well. AI was brain dead. Even if everything was executed well, it would have been maybe a C tier. But the game just a disaster. The AI is just awful. It just feels soulless, which is a shame because Arcane they just know how to make games that are just feckin' fantastic. Even Deathloop I played this year and I originally didn't like it. I think the game is better than I initially thought, but Deathloop is still only like a 7 out of 10. But even at that, Redfall doesn't even touch a 5 out of 10. It's just a terrible game. I streamed it for a few hours and that was it. It's not worth playing. Remnant from the Ashes on the Switch. Great port of an already great game. It's a B tier. It's just a really fun action RPG that kind of has a few Souls-like. It's a shooter. It's kind of Souls-likey. But yeah, this is one of the best action RPGs on the Switch. It's probably one of the best ports I've played on the Switch as well. I love this game. I highly recommend everybody just play it. Just play it. Remnant 2 is coming out soon. But just play it out before Remnant 2 because it's a great game. Street Fighter 6. One of the biggest games of the year. I love it. I love it for the fighting. I don't love it for the World Tour mode. If you want the single player experience, this is not the Street Fighter game for you. World Tour mode sucks balls. Low level enemies still attack you, so you go into these stupid battles. The AI in the battles is just super boring and brain dead. The story itself isn't interesting. It has some cool cutscenes, but the cutscenes only last like a very short amount of time. And then you have these static conversations that just aren't interesting. But if you want an online fighting game that has brilliant characters, really, I just feckin' love it. I just dip in and out of this game, just playing like a couple of matches online. I'm terrible at it, but I had loads of fun. If this had a really good story mode, it'd be an S tier fighter game, but it's an A tier for now. Don't buy it for the single player experience, but if you want a game that you can properly grind out, then this is perfect because I love it. Jedi Survivor goes in D tier, and it's only because the performance is so bad. I can see that this game is going to be great whenever it gets fixed. But I wasted €80 on this game. It's still not fixed to this day. Barely even touches probably 45 FPS in performance mode and runs at like 600p. Again, I don't know. I don't know how this game released in this state. And to this day, it's still broken. And to this day, it got all those really high reviews. And very few people mentioned the performance. They said it wasn't that big an issue. And I understand that definitely performance is very subjective. Very subjective. But this is just awful. It's just not worth playing right now. Synapse. Yes. I can talk about this game for when this is going up. So this is one of the biggest VR games of the year. Was in State of Plays. Really highly anticipated. Basically a roguelike shooter, but you have telekinesis where you can pick people up and you can fling them and you can like pick up a barrel. So how it works is you press R2. I'm left-handed, so I have my gun in my left hand. So you press the trigger, but with a barrel you can soft press to pick it up and then you full press to squeeze it and blow it up. And it feels so good. And that loop of 10 seconds of shooting people and picking them up into the air, pulling them towards you, shooting them or flinging them against a wall or crashing them off a barrel or something, so fun. And as a narrative, it's kind of interesting. But where it falters are the roguelike mechanics. This is barely, like, it has roguelike mechanics where you get random weapons, you get random upgrades. There's some meta progression behind the scenes where you unlock skill points that, like, make it so that you start with different weapons, or now new weapons are in the pool. So stuff like that, your telekinesis gets upgraded. But it really fails into diversity because all the levels are the same. There are no bosses. There are no secrets. Each run is the exact same except for, obviously, you get different upgrades, different weapons, but there's only 4 weapons. Well, yeah, there's a pistol, there's a shotgun, there's an SMG, and a grenade launcher. So yeah, there are 4 weapons. There's no difference in your telekinesis. All you can do is pick... Now, again, it feels so good to pick people up. It works off eye tracking as well. So you just need to look at someone and then that's what registers what you're trying to pick up. That's so cool. But as a roguelike, it's not good. I beat the game in 4 or 5 hours. Each run that you beat, it unlocks a harder difficulty. I've completed the story, but the game doesn't get very difficult. The enemies just get like spongier, and that's about it. It understands the fun of a 10-second loop, but then it needs more content. It needs more varied levels. It needs more. There's 4 different enemies that you fight. There's no bosses. It needs bosses. It needs secrets. It needs more enemies. It needs more weapons. It needs more upgrades. This is a game that I think a year from now, if they do content updates like most roguelikes do, this game will be absolutely phenomenal. One of the best VR games ever made. But right now, it's a C tier because of the roguelike elements. If it was a narrative shooter and had these like the gameplay, then it would be higher. But because it's a roguelike, the roguelike just really hampers it. And next we have Chia. This is a D tier. It's probably like a high D tier. It's a fine game. It doesn't run very well. It looks beautiful, but it's very, very empty. Basically what Chia is, it's kind of thinking like a Breath of the Wild open world-ish game, where you can possess all these animals at your power. You can possess birds, you can possess crabs, deer. But basically, the only animal that's worth possessing is a bird, because they're the animals that let you get around quick. Possessing all the other animals is useless. They don't add much things. They don't like change up anything. And the problem is that there's a couple of times where during the narrative, during the story missions, like you'll have to, I don't know, say, turn into a crab to cut a rope to free someone. But that's it. There's not much difference. And then they have this stupid combat system where the enemies are made out of this. I think they were like paper enemies and you have to burn them. But the only way of burning them is to possess something in fire, or possess a jerry can and throw it at them. Or turn into this like mythological beast that can fling fireballs. But it's just not fun. It's not a fun game. I didn't really enjoy it. It's I take it back. It's a low D tier. Because it looks beautiful. It's set in a place inspired by New Caledonia, so you get to experience a different culture. And the game looks beautiful, but it doesn't run well, so yeah. Tentacular is a very solid C tier VR game. I didn't beat this one, but it's very... so you are this octopus that has the... or a squid, I forget. But you have tentacles, basically. And it's almost like one of them life sim games that I was explaining, where you have to do menial tasks. But it is funny. So it's like a C tier. No, yeah, it's a high C tier. It's better than Job Simulator, but not much better. Light Brigade is probably my favorite VR game of this year. It's an A tier. Very clunky. It feels clunky, but the core loop of a roguelike with realistic World War II weapons, but also kind of fantasy. The melding of it is weird. Aesthetically, it's not the best looking game, and I think it's missing some like cohesion with its aesthetic. It kind of clashes fantasy with World War II, but doesn't do it in a very good way. But it's still an interesting concept. But just the loop of a roguelike where you're using realistic World War II weapons, fighting World War II soldiers in these almost fantasy settings, it's just cool. And it's just a fun game. And the weapons feel good to use. Yeah, I love it. And then Tears of the Kingdom, still haven't beaten this because it got busy. S tier game, absolutely phenomenal. I just can't understand. There's only one game that could potentially dethrone this as my favorite game of the year, and that's going to be Starfield, if that game turns out to be like absolutely phenomenal. But what can I say about Tears of the Kingdom that I haven't already said? It's the ultimate sandbox game, and it's just fucking brilliant. That's it. It's a brilliant, brilliant game. Has issues, but it's brilliant. And then Vengeful Guardian, I don't want to harp on about Tears of the Kingdom because I have a video if you want to watch it, but just brilliant. Vengeful Guardian Moonrider is basically, it's an A tier, but it's basically if you took Mega Man, where you fight the different bosses, you get their powers, and then mix it with like Ninja Gaiden or something, and just made a classic 16-bit, I guess, or is it 8-bit, I don't know, but like a modern version of them games. And it does exactly what it says on the tin. Really fun, really cool soundtrack, gorgeous art. Just, yeah, it's just a solid classic reimagining of a classic style game. Kind of like Shovel Knight. I don't think I put it on the same level as Shovel Knight. I think Shovel Knight is like an S tier game, but this game is still very good. Figment 2 Creed Valley is a B tier. It's like this kind of adventure game, light puzzles, light combat, but where it shines, you have these musical boss fights, and the narrative is actually kind of cool. It kind of deals with you're basically in somebody's mind and you're dealing with their emotions, and the emotions are the bosses, and it's fun. And the musical boss fights, even though I wish there was more of them, where like it's something I can remember, which is great, and the aesthetic is cool. Very good game. Clive and Wrench is a low D tier. It's unfortunately a 10-year passion project by a guy, but the game doesn't look very good. It feels okay, but not amazing. The levels just don't really inspire anything. They're like they feel like they're thrown together. The boss fights aren't good. It's just not it's not a good platformer. Yeah, I was hoping it would be something better, but it just isn't, unfortunately. Yeah, it's more of a shame, really, because like it's a game that could have been very, very good, but it's just lacking a lot of polish, both like mechanically and visually. Yeah, it's not great. Gran Turismo 7 was already like an A or S tier game, but I put it here. I know it came out last year, but I've played a lot of it in VR, and VR just elevates it. I have a steering wheel. I have a VR headset. Absolutely insane. I've never been more immersed in a game. Great game. Beat Saber is an S tier. It's an S tier VR game. It's just so cool using lightsabers. It's a good workout. I'm sweating loads. But then they came around and they added in Queen DLC, and now I can fucking play Don't Stop Me Now in Beat Saber. Oh my god, I just fucking love it. It's as simple as that. I love Queen. All the songs of the Queen pack are amazing. Yeah, that's it. Beat Saber's amazing. Hubris. This is a narrative sci-fi VR game that I got a code for, and I haven't been able to beat. And the reason is because there's a lot of underwater sections, and I don't like it. You fight these weird squids, they're not even that scary, but swimming in VR on a fucking alien planet is so creepy. I can't do it. It seems cool. Like, I just wanted to put it on this list just to say that I have played it, and like it seems high quality, but I'm sorry, I'm putting this in the F tier. But the only reason I'm putting this in the Gollum tier is not because of the quality of the game, it's because I'm too scared to play it. Simple as that. Sea Smash VRS. A very fun VR game that is like a B tier, I think. It's one of them VR games, kind of like Beat Saber, where you dip in, you know, or mini golf, where you dip in for half an hour or an hour every now and again. It's basically a brick breaker squash game. So imagine you're playing squash in this futuristic setting. A ball spawns in the middle, you pull it towards you have a paddle, you have to knock it back to the end of the room, and then it comes back. But there's like targets at the end, basically a brick breaker. And then, yeah, it's just a really fun, like it's one of them VR games that I'm just going to dip in and out of every so often and just play a round or two and just have fun. It's pretty cheap, I think. So, and it's a game that I just probably keep on my console for a while and just dip in and out of. Very fun. Next, we have Pixel Rip 1978. And this game kind of melds 2D platforming, 3D kind of voxel-based adventure shooting games, and then a bit of the life sim elements. And it's all set in like classic times. It just has a really cool premise. Basically, you are a developer in the Atari office of making this game, and a goblin from the world of your game basically infects your game and puts a glitch on it. So you have to go through all these other games that you have made to basically remove him, and it's just really cool. So the life sim aspects are you are in the Atari offices doing menial Atari office stuff, but also you are testing your game and bug fixing it by using the Atari controller. I don't know the name of the console, I always mix up the Atari ones, but the black joystick with the red button, I had a plug and play. So you're playing like a 2D platformer on a screen in an office, and then at different points you're playing like a Centipede, you're playing other Atari games and fixing bugs. And then there's also parts where you go back in time, where you are like in your sitting room playing a brick breaker on your old Atari, but then the goblin comes out of the screen and then he's like in your sitting room. And then parts are really cool. I think the worst part of the game is when you are actually in the game and you are in VR and you are in like you are actually in the game and it's a 3D space and it's, you know, it's a shooter, but it's very basic in them settings. It's more the kind of the spectacle of being in an old game is the fun part, but the actual gameplay of being in them old games isn't fun. So it's like a solid game. I'll put this in a C tier. I haven't beaten it though, but I'll put it in a C tier. Knock is a high C. No, Knock is a low B tier. So mechanically as a game, it's very fun. It's basically Rocket League, but you are this human, and how you move around, you use your hands as skates, and you have a bow. So you use a bow to shoot the ball to score, and it's set up kind of like Rocket League. And it's just fun. I dip in and out just playing a couple of games. The only issue is, and it's that I'd be curious where the community is for this in 6 months. So I can't really speak about that right now. Right now, there's enough people to find the game, but I think the most I've ever seen play it, like 80 or 100 people at a time. So, you know, you already have a small enough install base with VR. It does have crossplay, but you have a small install base with VR. So, you know, I'm just afraid that if you bought this game in 2, 3, 6 months, it might die. But obviously, we don't know. But that's my only concern. It's very fun. It's another solid, fun VR game. And then next we have Rogue Legacy 2, which just came out on PlayStation. I got a code for this. And I've played like maybe 4 or 5 hours of it. And it's Rogue Legacy, but with more. So it gives you more classes. But what really blew me away was the art style. The art style of this game is feckin' fantastic. It just looks absolutely phenomenal. Plays really well. I'm awful at the game. I will get better. But yeah, so far this is already a B tier, but I have a feeling this could very easily finish in an A or an S tier by the end of the year, because it really is that fun. And it looks brilliant. Next we have Resident Evil 8 VR. Resident Evil 8 I think is an A tier game, and I think VR elevates it to a really high A tier game. The only issue is that I'm too afraid to play it. I've played maybe 2 hours of this in VR, and it's enough for me to know that this is an absolutely phenomenal experience in VR, but also I'm too afraid to play it, and I'll never beat it in VR, so feck you. Anybody that wants me to play it live on stream, you can feck off. What the Bat, once again, this is kind of like one of them life sim kind of funny games. You basically go through, it's a C tier, it's VR. You basically go through your life from a child to an adult, doing menial tasks like brushing your teeth or like toasting toast or playing bowling, but your hands are bats. It's just fun, like it's cheap. It only takes like a couple of hours to beat, and yeah, that's about it. It's like just a solid game. Song in the Smoke is a B tier game. Again, I haven't beaten this one. I've played a good bit of it. It's basically a survival game in VR, but the best thing about it is how like tactile it is. I don't know what happened to my voice there. How tactile it is. So like, if you want to build a spear, you pick up a stick and you get a knife and you carve it, and that's a spear. And if you want to like break a rock, you grab it and you smack it off a rock. Or if you want to get a torch, you get the torch, you add flint on top, and then you strike the flint off a wall. And it's just like that really tactile feel that I think makes this game really fun. Not as scary as I thought it would be. I thought it would be because there's these like weird dinosaur creatures kind of chasing after you. But it's definitely tense. And that's why I can't play it for too long, because it just gets a bit too much. Kind of being on edge all the time, yeah. It's just, I don't know. It's fun. I really enjoy it. It's a very high quality VR game. Rhythm Sprout is a very solid, just high C tier rhythm game. Cute aesthetic, catchy music. I wouldn't really say much more about it. Clash Artifacts of Chaos. I never beat this game because I got a bug. And essentially it's like this kind of action, almost spectacle fighter, but it's a bit clunky. The aesthetic is really cool. It's like really striking. That's what caught my eye. But the bug ruined it for me, and I never went back to it, and I don't think I ever will, because it really wasn't. The combat system was fun, but not great. So yeah, it's probably good if you buy it cheap. There's definitely something there. It kind of has that double A where it has jank, and to the right person, Clash, this game could be like good and they could really enjoy it, but it just wasn't clicking with me 100%. And obviously the bug didn't help. And next we have, well, I already talked about Knock, but the final game is Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, specifically Final Fantasy 1, because I'm just going to buy them individually and play them as I go along. This game is, you know, it's fine. It's, you know, I wanted to play the Final Fantasy, I've played a lot of the Final Fantasy games. I've have experience with pretty much every Final Fantasy game ever released at some point, whether it be watching my brother or my dad play it, or playing it myself, or, you know, whatever. But Final Fantasy 1 it's great to see where these games have come from. It's a good history lesson, but like, I can't recommend this game to go out and play it. Like, it's not a must play. If you're like if you really want a history lesson on the original Final Fantasy and you want to experience it, then it's fine. But it's like, it's just very basic. Obviously, this was the first Final Fantasy game, so it will be very basic. But it's a C tier. It's a high C tier game. It's not offensive. Doesn't take up too much of your time. Has some cool sprite work. But that's about it. Yeah. So there we have the mid-year tier list. So I'm wondering, are any of these games pissing you off, the placement on these? I mostly did this because they're fun to do, but also it'd be great to see at the end of the year when I do the full tier list how my opinion has changed over time. So, yeah, this has been a long video, but I appreciate you all watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm working on a PSVR 2 like compilation video with a lot of the games that I spoke about here today. The support on the channel has been amazing recently, so I really appreciate that. See you all on the next video. Goodbye.